All right, now we're ready to talk about how to put these together, what parts they're made of, and what some of that joinery is going to look like. So we'll first start with the face frame. The face frame again, we discussed this a little earlier when we were talking about face frames versus frameless. And a face frame is just a hardwood frame. So in this case, this is oak, but we could use maple or poplar or cherry or walnut, something like that. You tend to see less and less like pine or fir. It's almost always going to be a hardwood species. And the reason is because it's more durable. It'll hold up longer than pine or something like that. Can you build it out of pine? Yeah, I wouldn't though. So looking at this, you have these long pieces that are the sideboards, and they run from the very bottom of the cabinet to the top, and they're referred to as the stiles, S-T-I-L-E. All right, so we have a stile here, and we have a stile there. The top and the bottom boards, which connect these boards, connect the stiles, are referred to as the rails, okay? Almost like a rails on a train track, I guess. And then you have a middle divider here. So the way this face frame is built, and this is going to be pretty much uniform from cabinet to cabinet when you have a face frame, is that the stiles run the top to bottom and the rails connect the stiles. You don't have the rail go the whole width and then the stiles hit it, say, right here and here. It's always the stiles the full length of this cabinet face frame. And these face frames are put together almost universally with a joint called a pocket screw. So chances are, if you're taking this course, you're familiar with pocket screws, and we went over one of those jigs in the tool section, but it's really just a little hole that's drilled with a jig, and then you drive a pocket hole screw through it, and it actually puts these together. So this would be something like that right there. So that's kind of what you're looking at with that joint. On the back, it's just the screws. All right, there are other ways to put face frames together. In this course, we're only going to do pocket screws on the cabinets we build face frames with. It's very easy to do, and the other methods, while probably just as good, there's just really no reason to go over them here because, I mean, if you can do pocket screws for the face frame, it's really just the best way to do them. So it's just a screw with a little bit of glue, and you drive them together. So I'll show some close-ups to this, obviously, and when we start building the cabinets, you'll see me actually put the drills and drill the hole and all that stuff. But for now, just want to familiarize yourself with what joints we're going to be putting on here. So again, so that's the face frame. That's how we're going to do that. Moving past the face frame into the rest of the cabinet, we have two sideboards, okay, and we have a bottom and we have a back, and then also this one has a shelf that I put in there as well. The material for these sides is going to be some type of composite material. For this particular product, and I will bend this over so you can see it and do a zoom in or a photo or whatever, this particular one is actually particle board. Okay, the cabinets we're going to build and the cabinets I've built in the past are always plywood. So there's particle board, there's MDF, and there's plywood. So there's a bunch of different products you can use. Particle board in these stock cabinets, they're used because it's a very inexpensive product. The downside is it's not terribly durable. It has some good strength to it. It's fine for most uses, but if it were to wick in moisture or get wet, it's gonna really deteriorate pretty quickly. So this particle board has a veneer on the inside, and it's a particle board with a nice thin layer of looks like maple wood veneer, and then that's polyurethane or stained, and that gives it this finished actual wood look to it. But in reality, it's particle board and a very thin skin veneer. Okay, so that's the two sides, and in this whole cabinet, the entire box of this stock cabinet is particle board. That's the bottom, the sides, and the back. This cabinet actually has half-inch sides, half-inch bottom most likely, and I believe, a half-inch back as well. A lot of times you'll see 3/4-inch sides, 3/4-inch bottom, 1/4-inch back, a nice thin piece in the back with some actual hardwood stock behind the back. so you can actually secure this to the wall fairly safely, and you can't really drive a screw through 1/4 inch plywood and expect it to hold onto the wall. You have to put it through a piece of wood with a little more meat to it. So again, when we build our cabinets, we're going to probably stick with 3/4 inch sides bottom, and we'll probably do a 1/4 inch back with some backing. The reason that is 3/4 inch is very easy to find. It's more expensive than 1/2 inch. Obviously, there's more material there, but it's stronger. You can go to Lowe's or Home Depot if you get short on it. You can run out and get it. So that's the basics of the box components. Again, it's just two sides, a back and a bottom, right? Real easy. So how do you put the box itself together? Well, there's a bunch of different joints you can use to assemble just the box portion. So the sides and the bottom and the back together. We are going to use grooves and dados. So grooves made from either a router bit or grooves made on a table saw with a dado stack blade. You can also put these boxes together with pocket screws. You can put them together with biscuit joints, okay? So what you really want to take away from this quick section here is the sides, again, go that full depth and the full height, or the height plus a little toe kick, I guess, block you can put down here. The bottom boards will go from the side to side, and then the full depth, or just close to it. And then the backboard will go at least visibly from the bottom all the way to the top. And when we get into planning and planning our layout and how we're going to build these things, it's just important that you're familiar with cabinet boxes have two sides, a bottom and a back, okay? An upper cabinet is going to have two sides, a top and a bottom. The top of the base cabinets is going to be open, okay? The top of our upper cabinets is not. It's going to be a completely closed box except for the opening in the face frame. All right, so when we get into building these, you'll see some of these joints in action, but again, just want to familiarize yourself with how they're put together. So how do we attach our face frame to our box? Now, there's a couple ways to do that. Again, a couple different joints. We mentioned pocket screws. So pocket screws on a connection where we're joining our box to our face frame. How would we do that? Well, we could actually put some pocket screw holes right in the sideboard and attach it right to the face frame. Now that works if your cabinet is between a bunch of other cabinets, and you're not going to see this area in here because there'll be another cabinet here, another cabinet on the side. That'd be fine. If this cabinet's going to be exposed, then having a bunch of pocket screw holes on the side isn't going to look very pretty. You could also move them into the inside, and you can put one right behind where these face frame boards are, so they're kind of inconspicuous and out of the way. And I've done that before, and that works fine as well. So that's how you would do pocket screws, kind of join each piece together in inconspicuous locations and then attach them to the face frame with pocket screws. The issue with pocket screws for that type of application or that type of joint is it's very easy to drill the holes. The hard part is getting them to line up properly. You're going to almost have to use some jigs and some clamps to hold the spaces apart. And for instance, if you're trying to pocket screw your bottom board to your side boards, how do you set that height off of the bottom if it's in the middle of that side? You'd have to almost draw lines, and then as you're drilling your screw into that side, sometimes the board wants to move on you. So pocket screws are great for the face frame because you can clamp everything down to a work surface and get it going. But when you're starting to build a 3D structure with it, it becomes a little more challenging. So, but again, it's a good option to use if you don't want to get into the router and into the dado blades and all that stuff. Another way we can attach our box parts to our face frame is through grooves. And to show you what that looks like, just for an example, I have a piece of hardwood stock here, and kind of to simulate one of these boards here, a style board. And what I've done is run it through the router, actually over the router table, and put a 3/4 inch wide, 1/4 inch deep or so groove down the length of this board. And so what this would do is it would allow me to kind of accept a piece of plywood sideboard right into there like that. Okay, so then what we do is just put some glue in that joint and clamp it together, and that joint is never going to come apart. And what it does is it gets you a real nice clean seam over here Whereas if you were to just try a butt joint with, say, like a pocket screw, you may have a little bit of opening on the side here right at that seam. So kind of putting the board into the other board lets you kind of hide that joint a little better. And anytime you have like a recessed groove with a dado, and especially with plywood along the length of a hardwood board like that, it's a very, very strong joint once there's glue in there. To hold it temporarily, you could also put a couple brad nails or to pin it in. So we're going to be doing a couple of those types of joints in this course. I've never actually done one on the face frame, so we'll learn how that looks like together. But I've done grooves to join box parts to box parts. So our sides and our bottom, what we'll probably do is end up putting a groove across one of these side boards, side pieces here, where the bottom board, the bottom piece of this cabinet can sit in. The advantage of doing a groove or a dado in a build like this is it allows, once you put the groove in, which isn't very hard to do, especially on a table saw or a router table where you, or even a freestanding router where you can run it against a straight edge, so you can locate that groove very easily. When we go to assemble a cabinet that has grooves and dados, we're not worrying about lining up, say, the side piece with the bottom board, because the bottom board is going to go right into that groove, and as soon as we glue it and clamp it, or glue it and tap it in with some nails or whatever, it's not going to move. It's not going to want to pop out and slip out. It's going to hold in there. While if you're trying to do that with pocket screws on a flat surface with no place for that board really to hit, it's going to want to walk around on you a little bit. But so having that groove there helps us structurally, because it's a sound and strong joint, and it also helps us with alignment and aligning these pieces together. So I would put a groove for the bottom boards to meet the side board. I'd also put a groove in these side pieces for the back board to slide into, and we can also put some grooves in this face frame boards for the actual box to join the face frame. So that's the second joint we're looking at. So pocket screws, dados, and grooves. The last joint we're going to look at to join our cabinet body to our face frame are biscuit joints. So these little biscuits actually are little pieces of dried out or dehydrated wood. And what you do is we use a biscuit jointer to put in these little slots in what would be the side pieces or the bottom. And then you put a matching slot in your face frame wood on the back of it. And then what you do is you just insert these little biscuits into that slot. You put some glue in there, and then you squeeze them together. And then once they join up there, you actually clamp them together. That biscuit would keep your face frame connected to your box. The only disadvantage, or one of the few disadvantages of this, or you have to buy a biscuit joiner, which is a couple $100 or $100. It's a very easy joint to do. It can be a little tricky to line up. You still need to clamp it, that sort of thing. Also, you do have a little bit of a visible seam where your wood meets, your plywood would meet your face frame. But again, it's very easy to do. If you get into woodworking enough, it's probably a tool you'd want to pick up anyway. But so there it is. So those are the three basic joint types. Biscuits, again, the grooves, which we'll use, and pocket screws for both our face frame and some of our box parts.